she's going so fast. Oh, that's true.
What you see back there is the 1890 entrance that I was talking about. Welcome to a year-round 52 degrees. No matter what time of the year you come in here, it's always 52 degrees in our cave. What you see around you is called lithographic limestone. It has been sandblasted in these areas to make it easier for you guys to see, because when people used to come in without electricity, they'd use candles and it would turn the limestone black. Up here you see what are called calcite nodules. Back in the older days when men used to explore the cave, they came here and thought that these were diamonds. They went home and told their wives they found diamonds in the cave. They came in, dug them out, and took them into town. Placed them on the hardness scale, and they scored about a 2 or a 3. That's about as big as your thumbnail and just about as hard. This is the Jesse James hideout. We do not know for sure that this is actually where Jesse James hid out, but we'd like to believe that he would because of all the entrances and exits to the hideout. Plus, it's large enough to fit his posse comfortably. We also would like to believe that Jesse James had reason to hide in our cave because he robbed a bank on September 22nd, 1879. We actually have a signature in our cave from Jesse James that I will talk about later that is proof that he was here. How many of you know that Missouri is known as the Show Me State?
Yep.
How many of you also know that Missouri is known as the Cave State?
Yep.
There are 6,400 caves in Missouri, and 200 new caves are founded every year. 22 of those are show caves, and 17 of them claim that they've had Jesse James in them. Ours has proof. Next, we're going to be going through a part that we call Fat Man's Misery. It is the narrowest part of the cave, so if you get stuck, have the person in front of you pull and the person behind you push. If you're still stuck, we'll have the next tour get a running start. This is Alligator Rock. It is the first navigational landmark in our cave. If you notice, on the top of the alligator, it's very shiny. That's actually from the oil from your fingers. That's what it does to the limestone. They say that if you pet the alligator as you walk by, it's supposed to be good luck for a tour guide to get you out safely. I guess not very many people trust their tour guide. This is Autograph Alley. Prior to 1972, you're actually encouraged to write your name on the cave walls. In 1972, though, this cave became a national natural landmark. So now if you wanted to write your name in the cave, you get a big hefty fine and some time with the sheriff. As you can see, many people use different ways to write in the cave. They'd use soot and carve their name in. They would carve their name in. They'd use black paint. And in some areas of the cave, you'll see red writing. That is pokeberry juice.
Pokeberry?
Yeah.
Pokeberry juice.
This is the post office. Back when kids were allowed to play in the cave, there'd be a slate sitting in that window you see there. They'd come in, write their name on it, go play in the cave, and they'd erase it when they were leaving. At the end of the day, a local man called the postmaster, which would usually be a local farmer or just a parent, would come in and check the slate to see if there were any signatures left. If there were any signatures left, he would go into the cave and look for the child. If he still didn't find the child, he would go home and see if they were there. This worked out great until some kids just didn't go home after playing in the cave. Up here you'll see the portrait of Mark Twain. It was drawn by E.R. Beckham in 1923. He was a cartoonist for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Oh, it took a while. We had to walk through and turn on and off.
Here, one more coming through here in the hurry. No, that'd be really scary.
It was what we call Grand Avenue. This is the deepest and the longest part of the cave. Can anyone tell me how deep we are right now? We're about We didn't actually go down any farther. The cave went up on top of us. This is also the part of the cave where it stretches a fourth mile that way and a fourth mile that way. Now, how many of you read the story of Tom and Becky? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Out there where you guys parked today was actually a huge field where they would have local picnics. At the end of the picnic, someone would yell, "Who's ready for the cave?" All the kids would come running, and the bravest of them would go into the cave, which would look about like this since they didn't have electricity. This is the light of about 10 candles. Well, Tom and Becky were coming in together, and of course Tom, being sweet on Becky, decided that he wanted to take Becky off on his own and show off a little bit. So they were walking through the cave. Tom was showing Becky all the places that he knew, and of course at this time he only had one candle. They're walking through the cave, and he's showing Becky all the places he knows, and he starts to run out, and his light's getting dimmer and dimmer as they go on. So then he starts to make up places. He's going around talking about things. He doesn't even know what he's talking about, and he's just rambling on until he can barely see it all. He ends up back here in Grand Avenue, which is the most known part of the cave, and he doesn't know where he is. Becky is really tired, and she decides that she just wants to lean up against something. She leans up against something that she really didn't want to lean up against. It was a huge column of bats that was hanging from the ceiling. They all started flying, and Becky's light went out. This is complete and total darkness. No matter how hard you try, you will not be able to see anything. They say that if you were to stay in here for up to 6 weeks, you would go completely blind because your optic nerve would shut down. This concludes your tour of Mark Twain Cave. If you have any questions, please raise your hands. Well, the way out is that way. First room you'll see lit up back there is actually where the Jesse James signature is held. It reads Jesse James, September 19, 1879. The second room you'll see lit up back there is the civil defense room. This is actually where they used it as a fallout shelter and stored food back there during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But since the Cuban Missile Crisis never actually happened, the food was forgotten. They came back to check the food when they finally remembered. Some of the food that was still good was shipped to third world countries. The bad food was shipped to school cafeterias. Last room that you see lit up back there is the scariest room of the cave, to me anyways, is the Dr. Joseph Nash McDowell chamber. Dr. Joseph Nash McDowell was a scientist who wanted to try to petrify a body in the cave. He came to Hannibal and asked people in town if they were willing to donate their loved ones in order for him to do his experiment, and of course no one was jumping at that idea, so he decided to leave. He went back to St. Louis, but a few weeks after, his own daughter died. His 14-year-old daughter died of pneumonia. He brought her back here, placed her in a copper and glass cylinder, filled with an alcohol-based solution, and left her in the cave. He boarded up the cave and went back to St. Louis. Now the good kids, Hannibal, being the well-behaved children that they are, did the thing that any well-behaved child would do, and they broke into their cave. They were playing until one day they ended up back there in that room and found the body. Well, of course they were scared at first, but then the older kids decided they were going to have fun with it. They decided to go into town and get all their younger siblings and all the younger kids in town, brought them back there, told them ghost stories, and at the end of the ghost story, they would pick the girl up by her hair and shine a candle under her face. Of course, little kids, doing what any little kid would do, ran home and told on them. Their parents petitioned to have the body removed from the cave, so Dr. Joseph Nash McDowell came back, removed the body from the cave, and now his daughter is in the family mausoleum.